a very practical man and very inside musician. So he always helped us to achieve physically what he saw us striving to get. Many times what happens is that you want to express something on the keyboard, but you don't succeed. So you can either say, oh, that's bad, but that doesn't help you. Or you can say, look, to achieve that, you must use these muscles, you must use your hands in that way, you must use your wrists, you must relax somewhere where you have attention, you must sit not like this, but just straight in a good, straight. It's,
Can you give me one example of an exercise, a physical exercise that he wanted you to do?
Oh, it was just very basic and most natural position, and he had some exercises for the fingers, like to take the keys in different ways, and this is what I always like to have, different ways of piano playing. He never taught us there is one way. He always said you have to adapt to each player, and that's why he actually asked many pianists to come to our school and to give us lessons, so we could be confronted to many different things and then choose what was our path. And I think this is what a teacher or a tutor should do, is to let the pupil in a maiotic way, in a Socratic way, find his own way and find his own truth.
Yeah. Do you still do exercises like, or?
Oh, no, that, I wouldn't do that. No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. The most important thing is that sometimes you think that is a strength or you want to strengthen, but it's a coordination. Yeah. And thanks to another piano teacher, Jacques de Tiège, whom I met after the Liszt competition, he helped me also a lot in developing a good system, very economical, let's say, physically, and effective to play the piano with his fantastic insight and knowledge of piano playing and music.
These precious things with those 10 fingers, do you have assurance for these two?
No, I don't. I actually, well, now I'm feeling a little bit more responsible as I have 2 small daughters, but in the past times I was quite wild. I always cycled or practiced archery or did whatever, went on a motorbike, whatever was least indicated for a piano player. But I think, as in all things, when you're afraid of something, then maybe this thing will come. I think in life, everything is a danger. I mean, somebody is afraid of flying, but in fact, maybe you're just on your stairs in your house, and then you fall and you hit your head and you're dead. I mean, I would rather have a rather fatalistic view and say, well, okay, let's live our lives, and then with care, of course. You shouldn't put yourself in too much of a danger, but I mean...
We talked about the starting point of your career. When I studied you this week, I found it interesting that you didn't really play Mozart, not too often. Why? Yeah,
that's because Mozart is so difficult. Maybe that was a mistake. I mean, it's good to play something, so to practice them. Until you feel ready, you can really do your best on stage with it.
What makes Mozart so difficult?
Because it's so pure. I mean, when you have many notes, like in Liszt or Rachmaninoff, or even if some of these notes are not perfect, you can still live with that, you know. But if you have very few notes, like in Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, I mean, the greatest composers, then, I mean, everything can destroy the flow. So it's really such a responsibility.
You don't want to make mistakes.
Yeah, nobody wants to, but we all do. So, I mean,
are you afraid of Mozart?
Yeah, I was rather afraid of Mozart and Chopin, I would say, because of this. Also, Chopin writes in a very precise way, and these melodies, as I said, on the piano, is so difficult to render properly a melody. Yeah. Because it doesn't involve, I mean, you strike and then it's gone, and then it takes a lot of cleverness and forethinking to doing that. You cannot go there and improvise, and I always liked to get there and like improvise my playing. But in these authors, you understand that only after you worked so hard, you can so-called improvise. You can be free.
I also saw that Chopin is not really one of your favorites, but that has something to do with his negative or dark side?
Well, it's not, I wouldn't say dark, but
he's not optimistic.
There is a lot of, yeah, sadness sometimes, but still it's a very human sadness. I think he's a fantastic composer. It's not that I don't like, but as I said, to play it, for me, it's such a responsibility and so emotionally also tackling. I mean, that it's difficult.
You do play Holst. Let's listen to Holst. The Planets, what can you tell us about that piece of work?
Yeah, this is, we play here with Igor Roma, my colleague, and it was in Kocerbał, so very special evening. And we wanted to play also this because of my attachment to astronomy and to what you see when you look up at the stars. I was always fascinated, and then I thought that a composer that would write music on this, on the planets, was such a fantastic idea. And and it was written for 2 pianos originally, then he orchestrated it, and then there is an original score for 2 pianos, so that was the best occasion of doing it. But I think, I mean, the planets, what is more fascinating than thinking that we are on a planet? We are traveling in space around a star. And there are other planets, you know, and we are so limited in our solar system. It's like a little grain of sand in the universe, and out there are so many stars that could have planets.
There is
and
no
so
end.
many galaxies. And now I just read the new findings are that the matter we see accounts only for like 3% of what out of the calculations there should be. So there is dark matter, dark energy. I mean, we now are at the point where we know that we know nothing, in fact. The whole picture, we have to rethink. I mean, first we had Newton, and then we thought, okay, an apple falls in that way. We know gravitation, we know things. But then came Einstein, and he said, look, but speed of light and then relativity. I mean, and now we're in this where also Einstein is doubted in I mean, we are finding, and this is what I really love in science, is that the attitude of science is always looking for something else and never be sure of what you have today, is a doubt. And in fact, it's the same attitude you have in music. In music, you're never sure about your interpretation, about the work. You're always trying to find a better way of playing it. And this is a very scientific process, I find, because you just, you know that you can never rest in peace. You always have to move on. And this is a fantastic challenge for us.
You mentioned Roma. He said about you that he listened to you and he learned from you because you are like an eagle at the piano.
Well,
a huge, big eagle.
I like to fly. So this is in fact true. And it's, yes, you have to open your wings in a way, and after you have worked hard, and leave your imagination work with the piece of music. So that's when this happens on stage, that you feel free to express. That is all. Then you're grateful of all the hours spent preparing, because then finally you find that you're free. And this is what all we want, that our mind, our souls are free of expressing something, and then the whole public feels this, and then the whole thing becomes a unity. In fact, it's what we all want. We want a yoga, we want a unity with each other. And then Gould used to say, well, concert, it's an old thing, but I think he was right on some aspects, because now we have the media, we have internet, we have TV, so we can do things singularly, very effectively. We have YouTube, we can see everything, we can know the news.
But still, we want to be close together
physically. But still, we want to be in a soccer match, we want to be at mass, we want to be at a concert, we want to be together and feel this unity. And when this feels, I mean, then you feel, because we're social animals, you know.
Another pianist, Wiebe Suryadi, a Dutch guy, who became the third at the least competition when you won, said something strange about you, I read. He said, why should I have an impresario? He only costs money. And he has about 100 pianists in his computer. I have a management of 3 people working only for me. And then he mentioned you as somebody who chose for that classical direction of working with an impresario. And he stated, and what happened to him? Do we ever hear of him again?
Well, hopefully, yes, we do. I mean, well, it's true that there is a big infrastructure in music, and it's true that if you are able, as he did or does, to set up your own thing, it's much better for you, economically and also...
Commercially.
I mean, commercially, because you can decide, but you must be able to do it. So if you have this frame of mind, of course, it's welcome. But for me, I always wanted to concentrate on the music, on practicing, on learning scores, or learning the art of fugue of Bach, and just reading at the score. And so I wasn't busy with this.
You want to concentrate on the music.
Yes, and I thought somebody else should do it. So I'm happy that somebody else does it for me.
The fact is, though, that you have very few CDs. For somebody with your reputation, it's not too much.
Well, that's also my fault, because I never liked to making recordings, because of this attitude towards music and towards things as always a work in progress. When you make a recording, you suddenly have a picture and you define yourself. You confine yourself in a little box, and then you say, that's me.
That's the truth.
Yeah, well, I believe nobody says that, but it's a picture. It's like a picture how you were at that time. But for me, I've always been reluctant to look for it. So I think it's mainly my fault.
Okay. What I find interesting is that you always want to twist and turn that piece of music, like you dust it, sort of clean it again, and then restart. Is that true?
Yeah, this is true in practical terms. This piano teacher, Jacques Tetiège, always told me, when you are performing, it's like you're paying. You're paying. But if you are only paying, you end up with nothing. You should also save. And when you're practicing, you're saving. So I learned a lot with him how to approach a piece of music from the practice side. I wanted always to perform. That was my main, and I would read a piece and perform it immediately, not understanding that you need a process to get to the performing. But then this piece, as you say, the dust is covering it after a while, and incrustations of vice, of bad habits, they just go on it. And then you have to get rid of those with practicing. So it's...
Okay. Well, let's watch you playing Ravel and then decide if you succeeded in cleaning it up.